Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast. One of the hosts thinks pom-poms do not belong on a football field. That's Lenny. He's not anti-cheerleader. He is seriously concerned that a Pomeranian on a football field could get hurt.
I was thinking it was like tassels he has. So I didn't know pom-poms. That's a good one.
That voice you heard is a voice you hear every other Thursday. Ben Solak. Ben, welcome back to the show. We're here to preview Week 7. Are you excited?
I am. I always forget not to talk before I'm introed, but it's because I like the dog pun so much.
It's okay. Dominique does it too. I'm excited about this week. There's some really, really good games. We are going to talk about all of them. The good ones we are going to talk about in more detail. As always, what we have been doing this year is one person will take the, shall we say, lesser games, the less good games, but we will talk about them all. I got an email from, I can't remember what his name was, saying that he doesn't like it when I say I'm on Minnesota, like how we go back and forth, because it sounds like I'm betting. And I actually thought that was kind of a valid critique. So I'm going to do my best, Ben, not only to remember to actually pick the games, which I forget to do constantly, but to not phrase it that way. So
yeah, that emailer has also been in the Twitter mentions of every single pod we posted since week 1, asking for you to stop saying on.
Incredible. All right, well, sir, we aim to please. The customer is always right at the Mina Kimes Show. Not always right. All right, well, let's just jump right into this.
Yeah.
We will loosely go in order, as we have been doing. We will start with Thursday Night Football, another piece of listener feedback that I responded to. This one is one of the games I picked to only have one of us sort of focus on. That person is me, Broncos Saints. At this point, I'm not sure exactly what the situation is with Derek Carr and Spencer Rattler, but the focus that I chose was not about the quarterback. In fact, I thought the Saints' loss wasn't really about the quarterback to Tampa last week. My question, and I think the key for New Orleans, is can this defense rediscover its identity? Because, oh my God, Ben, that was some of the worst tape I've seen in years versus Tampa Bay.
The last time I was on, I was pushing Saints are going to beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. And because they're right off that Falcons game, and defensively they were lights out. They were sticky and physical, and it was crazy. And the past 2 games, Chiefs and then this Buccaneers game, just no interest in tackling anybody. Just the physicality completely evaporated. I really, short of accumulating injuries, which usually happens late in the season, I can't remember seeing a 180 like this. It's very surprising.
And I wrote regain their identity because the craziest thing, by the way, it looks like it's definitely going to be Rattler, so we can hit on that in a little bit.
Yeah.
The craziest thing was, it was like guys who we know, guys who have been awesome in the past, guys who have played together. I mean, there was at one point, I think it was maybe Adebo and Taylor who ran into each other, but these are not bad players. These are not unknowns. And it was not just the missed tackles. There were busted coverages. There were screwed up assignments. And look, the Bucs offense is very good, and we're going to talk about them. They have a very good game this week. But the reason, again, why I'm highlighting that is you're playing a Broncos offense that good defenses have absolutely clowned this year, right? This to me should be a good right opportunity for the Saints defense. And if it's not, Ben, I think that's why I'm kind of focusing on that. If they don't play better in this game, then I'm starting to really question whether or not they can stay in the mix in the NFC South.
Yeah. And I'm very interested because of the knowledge that Sean Payton has of Dennis Allen, right? I mean, he watched Dennis Allen defenses in practice for years, right? He watched opposing offenses, what they were able to do to a Dennis Allen defense. He's going to know kind of what buttons to press, what angles to go for. Think about that one good game the Broncos offense had was against Todd Bowles. And Sean Payton knows Todd Bowles pretty well, right? See him twice a year. And so I do think that they're going to get Dennis Allen in some of the spots that he doesn't like to be in. Bo Nix can run the football a little bit. Saints do not like dealing with mobile quarterbacks, right? They want to be a press coverage team. They do not do well for double moves. They do not do well for rub routes, right? There's stuff that the Saints have historically struggled with. Worth noting, the last 2 weeks, they've randomly been a zone coverage team, been terrible at it, but whatever. He's going to understand where the pressure points are. And so if you're not going to, kind of step up to the plate here against a Broncos team that you dramatically out-talent on that side of the ball, then Sean Payton will scheme around you for 4 quarters. And that'd be a bad look on a Thursday night game.
Well, and then part of the reason, again, why there's the onus is on this Saints defense is Spencer Rattler is going against a Broncos defense that we have talked about at length that is very talented, very good at rushing the passer, very aggressive. And he is also underarmed. I mean, Chris Olave is not playing in this game. Rashid Shaheed is not playing. So, I actually thought Rattler, I didn't really get to it, played pretty well in the first half. And then at the second half, Todd Bowles just started blitzing the hell out of him. And he just had to get ahead nothing. And he had missed throws and he made some mistakes. He's a rookie, 5th round pick, making his first start. I was much more let down by the defense in that game. And they just have to pull their weight in this one, or I just don't think that they've got a shot.
And Vance can do a lot of what Bowles did in terms of the blitz packages, right? That's something that's always been part of Vance Joseph's game, and it's been serious for them this season. They're one of the league's leaders in blitz rate, and then also one of the most effective teams when blitzing. The Broncos are. A big part of that is being able to win in man coverage the way that they have right now. Obviously, Pat Surtain availability for this game in question, and so you might not feel as comfortable. But with no Chris Olave, with no Rashid Shaheed, man, you're just like, listen, they can't throw it. And then they got no Eric McCoy, no Cesar Ruiz probably. They can't run it, right? Like the injuries are really accumulating for the Saints. They just can't get into their base offense the way they want to. So pressure point the quarterback, right? Like this is Rattler's second career starts on a short week. Like let's just blitz the guy. Let's make him make some mistakes.
I think I'm going Denver here. I just feel like the Saints are they're missing too many players on offense. Even though I think that the defense will play better, certainly than what we saw. I think that, what we have seen from this Denver's offense is obviously it's been a letdown in a number of ways, but I actually think they're going to have some success running the ball on New Orleans. And I feel like they can just do just enough, perhaps, coupled with the defense winning their matchup.
I keep waiting for the Broncos to have some success running the ball. It's how the team should be built. It's what everything looked like it would be coming into the season. And I'm just 6 weeks in holding my breath. Somebody's got to get this thing working.
Who are you going to pick?
Oh, I'm on the Broncos. Exactly. I'm 0 for 1
You're
now.
actually on the Broncos. You're on the Broncos.
I'm picking the Broncos. This line's been sprinting towards the Broncos all week as these Saints injuries continue to add up. They're favorites now. I think Denver wins it.
I do think Rattler showed some stuff in the first half, particularly throwing on the move. I think they'll probably boot him out a lot. Maybe ask him to scramble here and there, try to get the run game going generally. But it's a shame. If they had those 2 receivers, I might feel differently. But all right, let's for our second game, let's do one of the marquee matchups, and that is the Detroit Lions against the Minnesota Vikings. The fearsome NFC North has a showdown this week. You are covering Detroit. I need a new word. I am giving the key for Minnesota. Why don't you go first in this one?
Yeah. So I think if you're Detroit, you're traveling to Minnesota, unbeaten team, NFC North rival. I mean, like it's an exciting game here. You have to test this run defense. I think that's the part of this Brian Flores team that you want to kind of really, really test the mettle of. Now, it's important to note that Jared Goff last year against Flores was excellent. And we all came in. They played him twice in December.
Yeah, I went back and
we all came into those games being like, Jared Goff versus the blitz. I don't know. I was very worried. And then 0.17 EPA per dropback in his first game, 0.23 in the second game. His numbers last year against the blitz, Goff for some of the best of his career. His numbers this year against the blitz so far have been good. Like it's true that he's doing better against the blitz than he historically has. It's also true that like really blitz happy coordinators can still get after him a little bit. I'm thinking about Todd Bowles and some of those Bucs games, but it would appear like Ben Johnson and Goff feel like they know what they can get, know what layups they can get against Brian Flores. A lot of it is underneath completions, getting rid of the ball quickly, trying to convert with yards after the catch. But if you aren't able to run it on Minnesota, eventually they get you to a 3rd and long. And then you're at that point, you're really, really worried about Goff because he doesn't move in the pocket. And the guys that have had success against this Vikings team passing the football, you think about the when Brock was having success in the first half, think about Jordan Love down the second half, for the guys who could relocate their launch point. It's just not something that Goff has in his bag. So you got to run the football, got to control clock, got to control down and distance, especially because this Vikings run defense, it looks good by the numbers, but then you go and you check out that they're playing with a 3-score lead all the freaking time, right?
Yeah.
And so it really, like, I know they've played the 49ers, who are typically like, oh, a good run team. The Packers are a good run team, but just
They
game
fell
script.
they fell out
Yeah,
of yeah.
I still don't feel like I've really seen them tested yet. So to me, I'm running the football heavily with David Montgomery. I'm trying to slow this game down, take the air out of things a little bit. I want to win this thing in the trenches.
Yeah, I have basically the flip side of that. For my key for the Vikings was get Jared Goff into third down, which is the opposite of, run the ball and win on first down. But similar reasons. Jared Goff on first down this year, QBR 78, which is fourth best in the NFL. Third down, that drops to 58, which is 19th. Not terrible, but certainly a drop off when the run is off the menu. And the other thing with like Minnesota is, that defense is presents so many problems for teams on first down because that's when they blitz, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like, all right, pull this because I was curious. Minnesota's blitz rate on first downs, I mean, it's so out of step with the rest of the NFL. Here you go. On first and second down, they blitz 47% of the time, which is crazy. That's obviously first. On third down, they blitz only 28% of the time. So if you're Ben Johnson,
right now, no
Jared
team
Goff,
is a better pass rushing team than when they're only rushing forward than the Vikings are. But it's just that it's because they get you in such weird spots, and then they rush forward when you're not expecting it, and then they have a winner in John Grenard, and then go from there.
It's all about the timing of those blitzes. And so for Ben Johnson and Jared Goff, it's going to be really key, one, to be prepared for that, but also, as you said, to run the ball. I found the Vikings run defense to be fascinating because I was dubious that they would be good against the run this year. And even this year, the way they play, I thought, well, they can't be that great, but they've been fantastic. But in every metric, right? Like DVOA, EPA per play, success rate, they've been great against the run. But as you said, a lot of that does have to do with the fact that they've been ahead in every game. And they haven't, like, if they fall behind against Detroit, it becomes a totally different animal in terms of stopping the run, especially the way they play on the back end. They are vulnerable to the run. They just haven't been tested that way.
Yeah. They also, when you're a defense that changes the picture a lot, right? In terms of alignment, in terms of stunting guys and twisting guys and whatever, you can throw a wrench in a lot of these zone teams, right? Talk about Houston just had no success running the football against them because they kept on knifing inside. The Packers, I think, had trouble running the football on them. What you want to be able to do is you just want to go downhill on the Vikings. You want to be able to say, we're just going to displace you vertically. And that's the thing that I think the Lions can do well, that no team, again, like, I know Vikings fans get mad at me because they think I'm doubting them a lot. There's stuff that's been untested about this team that I would like to see tested before I fully buy in. And one of them is just if they can handle 12 personnel David Montgomery for 4 quarters. And they were pretty good against the Lions running game last year. They were. So
of note, Blake Cashman, who is their starting linebacker, is not likely to play in this one. So again, that really cuts to what you're saying about going downhill in the run game. The other thing about Minnesota that I think, though, presents an interesting challenge for Jared Goff if they do get into passing situations. Jared Goff this year has, and this was certainly the case against Dallas, feasted on single high coverages, which was exactly what we wanted to see out of Detroit, where we were like, you're the Lions, you get so much single high because of who you are. All you need, this was what we wanted, which was an explosive passing attack that could take advantage of those looks, is what we have gotten this year, and it's been wonderful to see. The Vikings do not play single high.
Yeah.
They play split safety at the highest rate in the NFL. So again, if they can get Jared Goff into third down, cloud the picture a little bit on the, more bodies in coverage, pass rush, I just think that's where you can see this Vikings defense winning this match.
Yeah, the Goff also gets single high because he gets base, right? Because they go with multiple tight ends, and they go with the condensed sets, and they try to force you to put 7 non-DB bodies on the field. And then, all right, where's play action? Or we got Jameson Williams in space. The Vikings are not going to give you base. Last year, they gave him I want to say 20%, 15% of Goff's total dropbacks in 2 games were against base defense. It's like dramatically below what he usually gets. That's how they're trying to get you. And again, last year, Goff threw the ball really well for 2 straight games against the Minnesota Vikings. And so we might be walking, and it's just Goff outplays Flores, Johnson outplays Flores. It's as simple as that, but it feels more complex than that.
Well, the other thing is I feel like there is a lot of pressure on this Lions offense to either match or stay ahead, because I don't love the matchup for them on the other side of the ball. And this, by the way, is probably why I am going to end up picking Minnesota in this. I am very apprehensive to see what this pass rush looks like without Aiden Hutchinson. That is not something that is going to get solved this week. Maybe they will do a trade. And Sam Darnold, when he has been unpressured this year, has been excellent. Pressure, similar to Jared Goff, numbers fall off a little bit. But I just thinking of imagining like the Lions offense not getting a lot of pressure and then trying to play man coverage against the likes of Justin Jefferson and company is a scary proposition.
Yeah. It's funny because like this would have been like a huge game for Detroit with the Carlton Davis acquisition, with the Terry Arnold acquisition. We have Aiden Hutchinson. Like Justin Jefferson has killed us in this division, right? Last 3 games, Justin Jefferson against the Lions, 12 catches, 192 yards. 6 catches, 141 yards, 11 catches, 223 yards. It's a good day in the office. All right. We are highly productive. So the idea was, all right, let's improve in man coverage. Then we'll be able to bracket this guy and then Hutch will pass rush and we'll be good. And now in the first game without Hutchinson, the Vikings are coming to town. It's like, okay, even if you could cover Jefferson with these guys as you're hoping, you're going to give Darnold so much time in the pocket. And so, yeah, I absolutely would have been picking Detroit in this game were Hutch playing. Without Hutch, it's like, man, I can just see Sam Darnold back there patting the baby for 4 seconds and finding Jordan Addison late over the middle for 25 yards. It's scary proposition.
I still really like Terry and Arnold, but I do not like him in this game. By the way, Terry Arnold giving up the second most EPA per play on 10-plus yard throws in the NFL this year.
He is so close. he and Deontay Banks with the Giants are the 2 young corners where I'm like, they're almost there. They just still, yeah.
I'm so fascinated in this one, Ben, to see how Aaron Glenn makes adjustments without Hutchinson until because I do believe this Lions team is going to make some additions ahead of the trade deadline. But obviously that's not going to be in this one. And like, because we have seen in the past with him, Fox and I talked about this, he has gone away from some of his man coverage tendencies when he felt like he didn't have the players. And I just would be very worried in this matchup about asking those guys to play man.
Yeah. I think about those games that Glenn played against the Rams and against the Buccaneers, and then even against the Niners during the playoff run last year, where like it was just so well known that teams are going to go after Cam Sutton and they were going to try to win their one-on-ones on the outside. And so Glenn said, okay, I'm blitzing any formation I get that's not spread out, right? If you're going to spread out, you're going to show me your hand, then I'll drop guys into coverage, whatever. But if you condense, you show me run, you go under center, like I'm sending the safety, I'm sending a backer, I'm trying to get in some sort of second and long, third and long, like you live a little bit feast or famine. Against Kevin O'Connell. I don't know if I love it, but I think that's your best solution, right? It's so important to note, like Hutch is down, but so is Marcus Davenport, who was supposed to be edge 2 for this team. So is John Kaminsky, who was supposed to be like edge 3, edge 4 for this team.
Is Pascal their best edge rusher right now?
Yeah, it's Josh Pascal, which is just like, okay, I love a Josh Pascal, but he is a run defending player. Like they have to add bodies to the rush if they want to get after Sam.
I really believe they will, but not in time for this one. So I'm taking Minnesota. How about you?
Yeah, I think Minnesota wins.
Okay. We are doing Pats Jags.
I was surprised this one cleared your bar for fun.
I did it because I wanted to hear your thoughts on May, because we talked about him a little bit, assuming that's the direction you go in, because God knows I do not want to talk about these Jacksonville Jaguars, who I'm on their side. God. But you got the Pats, so I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I mean, like my answer is just more of the same. Like I think a lot of what they did against Houston is going to map nicely onto this Jaguars team. The Jags can't cover anybody on defense.
What can they do?
Yeah, not cover anybody. They're second worst in explosive pass rate surrender. They're last by EPA per dropback, last total EPA per play. It's been the worst defense in football. The absence of Tyson Campbell, huge in terms of the coverage that they want to play. Darnell Savage, who is back for this Bears game, is potentially out for this game with a concussion, and just Ryan Nielsen, a DC who I love, and I like what he did with Atlanta, just has no interest in kind of bending his defensive approach to account for the lack of personnel they have in the defensive backfield. And accordingly, like just everybody catches passes against this team. Outside receivers, slot receivers, running backs have been great out of the backfield against this team. And if you look at what the Patriots did with May in that Texans game, they basically said, listen, like we're going to let you attack some one-on-ones, right? We're going to put 5 in the concept more than they did with Jacoby Brissett. They were a little bit more spread out than they were with Jacoby Brissett. And we're going to be a 3-step drop back and go. We're kind of going to let you pilot this thing. Like there were not a lot of kid gloves on that offense. They think, play action, whatever early, but they quickly realized it wasn't going to work. And they kind of just let May drop back and matriculate the football down the field. Accordingly, like the Keyshawn Boutte deep vertical ball, that's going to be there for you. The DeMario Douglas isolation routes from the slot, that's going to be there for you. And May, I think, with aplomb, showed that he can handle pressure and he can deliver the ball accurately in week 5 against the Texans. Week 6 against the Jags, it gets easier. Pass rush isn't as good. Coverage isn't as good. Go for it again.
They're bad at everything. It's funny because I was like, ooh, like the Pats should call like a lot of play action because the Jags can't defend play action, but they can't defend anything. You could split anything, any kind of way, any part of the
Right.
field, any level. They are bad at it. So
That's why I say more of the same. Like,
yeah,
keep your bread butter where it's butter. You don't need to kind of
scrambles.
adjust to this team. Yeah.
They can't defend scrambling quarterbacks. You saw that again last week. Drake
Mhm.
May will run for 40 plus yards in this one. Yeah, for him, the key is just to work on the accuracy, right? Because the way they fail is if you just, because you still saw some of the scatter shot accuracy certainly last week, and I think that would be the issue. I just wrote Jags. I mean, they're just, I'm not even going to try with the defense. I just wrote stop dropping the football. I don't know. I mean, their chance of winning this thing, is if Trevor Lawrence. I have more belief that the offense could have a good game than that the defense will suddenly figure things out, even against a rookie quarterback. It is amazing to me. Can we take a moment to acknowledge how insane it is that the Jags are still so bad at dropping the football, despite the fact that they completely turned over their receiving group, right? It should not be constant year to year. In fact, last year, I believe they had the 6th worst drop rate in the NFL. Now it is the 3rd worst drop rate.
And they do it in the most high leverage positions.
In the red zone over and over and over. It is like every receiver who walks into that building is gifted gloves covered with butter. There's no other explanation for it, Ben.
I have one. Trevor doesn't throw a catchable ball. That's it. Yeah, Trevor, it's just the spin on it's wrong or something. You know, a little bit too much velocity. I'll never forget Senior Bowl when Josh Allen was there, and the entire first day, all of his receivers kept dropping passes, and they were just like, "Yeah, he throws it too fast. We're not used to this." So I don't know. Like, I'm sure there is some credence to like a quarterback the way he spins the ball, sort of a theory. I don't think it's on Trevor Lawrence. I remember that Jags team 0-4 going into the Colts game, be like, man, this Colts defense is bad. Like, they should be able to win this one. And then they do. And it's like, a nice palate cleanser, immediately drop one to the Bears. This Patriots defense is not good because of the guys that they've been losing, right? Since Jawan Bentley went down, they've not been great against the run, been pretty bad against the explosive run as well. Jabril Peppers charged with assault and battery. Obviously not on this team anymore, but he was an important player to them in the secondary. I think his absence is felt as well in the run game and the explosive pass game. So long as you avoid Christian Gonzalez and you block Keon White, like, there's not a lot of juice in this defense. So, like, I could see the Jaguars scoring enough to feel good about their offense again. I just don't think it'll last for longer than a week.
Off a few runs. Yeah, I mean, I actually had a lot of trouble picking this one. I think I might end up going with the Jags just because that offense is really, really up and down, but I could see them hitting it up here. But I mean, the defense is so bad, it's really hard to.
I think it's Jags. One thing I will say is we don't like Gerard Mayo, Patriots head coach, said in his availability today, like, we're going to make some changes to the starting lineup. It sounds like they might be shuffling the offensive line again, just because of performance, because of penalties, because of injuries. There might be changes at wide receiver. Like, we don't really kind of know what he was intimating. I have respect for the fact that Mayo seems very willing to just like kind of try some stuff. Like, they have been making personnel changes on the offensive line and kind of changing secondary. Like they've been screwing around and kind of giving young guys chances and seeing what's going to work for them. And so, I don't really know what this line is going to look like. And I am worried, like Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker, like, they do push the pocket pretty well. And so I still think it's Jags. I wish I knew more about what the Patriots are going to do personnel wise before I had to pick this one.
All right. Seahawks, Falcons, Battle of the Birds. You are going to have the key for Seattle in this one. So why don't you go first?
So I don't feel great about Seattle. When they were at 3-0, I was drinking the Kool-Aid. And then obviously they had a huge run of defensive line injuries. I think it's exposed a lot of the issues in that back seven. So for me, I think that the key to this is you have to take advantage of an immobile Kirk. And you have to go back to winning with the pass rush the way you were in the beginning of this season. Kirk, we saw him against that Buccaneers defense, will just absolutely hammer the daylights out of the middle of the field. He will take advantage of linebackers and safeties in coverage 24/7, just over and over with precision, with accuracy, with timing, adjustment. Like, it's just where his bread is buttered. Seattle cannot cover the middle of the field right now. Just linebacker play, not great. Safety play, not great. Like, they're going to suffer if Kirk is just allowed to land on the back foot, hitch in the pocket, and go. So you have to be able to win pass rush and really speed him up fast. It's got to be early wins, right? You're not going to be able to cover and be sticky for long. This Falcons defense also has been like surprisingly good by the numbers. I'm not entirely sure how much of it I buy.
Not to my eyes.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that at all.
By EPA, they are second against the run and ninth against the pass right now so far this season. I was highly suspicious. I don't know. Congratulations on the numbers. I have questions. And so I think that you don't want to get in a spot where you are in clear pass scripts. You obviously don't want to get down on this team. You'd love to be able to run the football. It's where I think this defense is more gettable. But fundamentally, like, there's no lead that's going to be safe in the passing game because of where you're at with your secondary. You have to be able to get after the passer if you want to win this one.
So the Seahawks defense is getting a couple guys back, possibly. It's not totally clear. Byron Murphy practiced today. He has not been playing throughout their entire losing run. Tariq Woolen, it says, going down, according to Brady Henderson, who covers the Seahawks for us, that one's going down to the wire. That, to me, is pretty massive in this game. You alluded to some of the issues in the secondary. So I'll get to the other side of the ball in a second. For Atlanta, my key was actually destroy the middle of the field and spam Bijan. I mean, the things they're good at, the Seahawks are just not good at defending. You talked about the middle of the field, so I'll address the run game. Atlanta runs outside zone more than any other team in the NFL by a significant margin. According to FTN Fantasy's charting numbers, Seattle is allowing 6.5 yards per carry on outside zone runs this year, which
could it be worse?
It's second worst in the NFL, so it's not the worst. Now, they're not good at anything, but that, to me, you want to talk about alleviating any pressure off of Kirk, not letting that four-man rush that's getting a little bit healthier tee off on, an offensive line that is very good at run blocking, but still sometimes vulnerable in pass protection, obviously, in a mobile quarterback. I would lean heavily on the run if I was Atlanta in this one.
I will say, if I want to sprinkle some sunshine on it, watching the film of the Seahawks run defense over the last couple of weeks, I so often just find myself writing down or marking, like, okay, if they had real defensive tackle play, like, they'd be fine. Like, it's kind of clear where the weak point is. Obviously, I think their addition of Roy Robertson Harris, who, like, is a depth piece, a rotational piece, but kind of indicates that they know that's where they're weak right now. These have all been games where Byron Murphy's been absent, and it's never good when your whole hat is hanging on a rookie. But Murphy looked excellent before he got hurt. He's questionable for this game. I do think that Murphy coming back makes the linebacker core look better. I think it makes the safety core look better. Like, I do think there's a force multiplying effect there with Murphy. He was that impactful in that position, is that important. It's just it's not a good feeling when that's what, again, your hat's hanging on there.
I saw C-Mike Spin Move on Twitter posted some splits for the Seahawks defense on different downs.
Seahawks Twitter is twisted, man. The at is C-Mike Spin Move.
I don't know the guy's name, but they're 32nd in EPA on first down, but those numbers dramatically improve when they get defenses or offenses in second and long, and they actually become a top 10 pass defense. So not getting their butts kicked on first down is going to be paramount. Now, the reason why I'm not abandoning hope in this one is, as I hinted at when I scoffed earlier, I do not believe this Atlanta defense is the second best in the NFL.
It's so weird. I double-checked just now. They're good numbers.
They cannot rush the passer at all. This will be such a nice reprieve for Geno Smith, who has faced quick pressures 58 times, which is the second most.
That's gross.
But has been an excellent...
He had like 90s drop back against the Lions. That's why that number's so high. Okay, that's nasty.
He's been fantastic when he's been kept clean, 6th league-wide in QBR. This has obviously been kind of the Geno story. He's been decent under pressure too, but just the offensive line has been such a problem, and I think there will be something of a opportunity for him, coming off of a Niners game, which when he wasn't his best, certainly was his worst game of the season. I actually think this is going to be a really big bounce back game for the Seahawks offense. I feel like I've said this a lot with Seattle, but feels like a shootout, maybe.
What, 51.5 points is the total? I think it's one of the highest ones of the week. Yeah. It's up there.
I'll go Seattle. I pick against Seattle a decent amount. But I actually think that the defense, it certainly plays better than what we've seen. I do think the return of those players is huge, and I think that the quarterback will have success.
Yeah. I have so much Falcons doubt, just like some of these games they've been winning by the skin of their teeth. I think numbers-wise they're inflated. I also think the Seahawks win this one. I will say, the Seahawks passing game, Geno's very good. DK is very good. I think Tyler Lockett is still quite good. I think Smith and Jigba has a good role. I wish I felt better about some of the target distributions and some of the progressions. It feels like they have too much of an agenda. Like, it feels like they'll walk out on a drive and be like, the DK drive, I got to set up DK, right? And they'll walk out on another drive and be like, this is our play action drive. This is our underneath and our screens drive. And Geno could just sit back there and read it. You can just put 4 or 5 in the concept, probably 4 because you want to help the tackles, and just let him go 1 to 2 to 3 to check down. He can run with his legs. we talked about Grubb a couple weeks ago, and I said like he's good on like designery stuff. I feel like he's good at like getting to a bucket. The bulk of this passing game, I just wish they kind of just let Geno shred a little bit more and trusted him to run the offense on the field instead of like so many plays that are designed to get the ball to exactly X with exactly Y coverage. It feels a little too hyper specific for me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I think what your point about sort of the intentionality being a little bit too obvious is something that has jumped out. Like in San Francisco, the drives where they came in, they're like, we're going to run the ball. And then they couldn't run the ball.
Yeah.
Were really frustrating to watch, which isn't to say that they shouldn't be running the ball more, but it felt like it wasn't game planned well. And I feel like they're still figuring out the run game too. It's not.
Yep.
Which has been an issue in Seattle for years now, and certainly the offensive line doesn't help. So it's not like, he's screwing up a thing that was working by any means. But it feels like, and I say figuring it out because there are moments where it looks good. So a lot of that is Walker creating. But it feels like, I think part of the issue is the tight ends are not great. But
AJ Barner, come on now. Every three AJ Barner plays a game, I'm like, whoo, let's do it.
All right, let's keep it moving. Titans,
Once
Bills.
I hit AJ Barner, we got to go. All right, copy. That sounds good.
Titans, Bills is me. I just wrote Bills 4-man rush. Let's go. So this is just opponent wise. Titans offensive line can't block, and Will Levis takes a zillion sacks.
Yeah.
But it's also because I really kind of quietly like this Bills pass rush this year, and I feel like the Bills defense has been interesting to watch, Ben, because I actually think they've played maybe better than they've been getting credit for. And they're definitely a defense where when I watch them on tape, I'm always walk away impressed, particularly with the play on the back end, linebacker, secondary as well. But I do think that there's a real opportunity here for this pass rush to take over on that side of the ball.
Yeah, the Bills defense is the sort of defense that really worries me. And this is always the case with the Sean McDermott defense because he's so good at coaching around maybe not the best player here or a player who's like kind of more suited to a specific role there. And it looks good for so long. And then they run into like a playoff team, a team in the playoffs, playoff caliber offense. And the exposure happens fast, suddenly and dramatically, right? Like if you can get that Taylor wrap that we got against the Jets every single week, I'm in there like swimwear, baby. I love it. I just don't think Taylor Rapp is that every single week. And I'm worried about they catch the Ravens again, right? And like, all right, now, you need your backers to go fill and your safety step up. And like, they're so good at coaching around their deficiencies. And that usually tends to last 17 weeks, 18 weeks. You get to January football and somebody puts the screws to you. And so I love the Bills defense. Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, like some of these guys are playing, but I'm worried about the talent level long-term.
This game could get a little weird. Titans defense is solid.
The Titans defense deserves more, man. I feel so bad for them.
Deserve
Bernard
better
Wilson,
than what
they're killing it out there.
We don't know if Amari Cooper is going to be playing in this one. I did, by the way, that trade broke after I taped my Tuesday pod with Foxworth. I love it for Buffalo. I was so pumped when I saw that come through. The timing of it right after the Adams trade was just so great, like the arms war feel of it. But look, just we can kind of briefly hit Amari. Has not played well this year. I'm willing to just write that off to the stink of the Clevelandness of it all. I mean, on tape, he definitely isn't as fast as he was, and there's some pretty ugly drops mixed in with some horribly inaccurate throws, but he instantly, to me, walks in as the best, obviously the best wide receiver, but the best route runner, the clear number one in this offense, a guy who you can actually trust to still beat man coverage at times, which you really saw with Joe Flacco last year. And I love, Ben, how it kind of allows everyone else in Buffalo, the other pass catchers, to fall into more natural roles. The pairing of him with Shakir, Coleman being the big dude, everything feels a lot better right now. So yeah. I really like that move for Buffalo.
It was the second Mac Hollins end zone target against the Jets where I was like, all right,
enough,
go get him.
Enough.
Where it's like, okay, cool that you have a quarterback and like Josh Allen who could do that. And like Mac is a handy player in the blocking and whatever. Great. Eventually, like you players not plays. You need a guy who can go get you a bucket. And right. If that guy for you is Mac Hollins, you are not a serious team. I'm not going to take you serious. And all the love to Mac, it's just not his role. And Amari Cooper's a bucket getter, right? Like you say, like, is he going to turn as many 15-yard comebacks into 55-yard touchdowns by breaking a tackle? No. The drops thing, It's what you live with Amari. You really hope it doesn't happen. Oh, I don't know, in a one-score game with the Chiefs all the way down the field on a beautiful 60-yard throw. Like, the drops can kill you, but you have to live with something when you're acquiring a wide receiver at the deadline. That's kind of what you're living with Amari. The bringing into clarity the Khalil Shakir role and the Keon Coleman role and the Curtis Samuel, that's what's really great. Like, this passing game makes so much more sense to me with a player like Amari Cooper on the field. I think it, like, immediate vaunting of a tier, Bills Super Bowl tier contender. Like, Cooper does that to me for sure.
And I mean, this thing that really jumped out to me watching them play against New York, they just defense, and this goes before, certainly precedes the Jets game, but defenses just were not afraid of their skill players. I mean, they were not afraid to man them up. And we're very keyed in on Josh Allen, rather than any of the wide receivers, and that changes here. So, yeah, I really like that acquisition. I don't think it matters if he plays in this one. Yeah. I believe the Bills win.
Last 9 games of the regular season last year. So the end of the end of the backup quarterbacks into Flacco. Amari Cooper is on pace for 1,600 receiving yards.
He averaged 50 yards per game with Flacco against man coverage. Or no, was it 50? Whatever it was top 5 in the NFL.
Yeah. Flacco trusted him. And that's the thing is, like, you need Josh to get there with Amari fast, but if he can get there, cook it with gas.
All right. You got Dolphins Colts.
Yay!
By the way, I assume you picked the Bills as well.
Yeah, Bills in that one. I will say Titans defense might make this thing a little bit squirrely.
Got some dudes.
All right. Dolphins, Colts. Colts are at home. Colts are favored. We don't know, kind of who exactly is going to be healthy. We expect Richardson in this game, but the answer is just no dumb turnovers. Even if it is Flacco, it's no dumb turnovers. If it's Anthony Richardson, though, it's certainly no dumb turnovers. If you look on a play-to-play perspective right now, the Colts, highly explosive running game, very explosive passing game. Success rate on the ground is pretty good as well. Success rate in the air, not so good. They are top 10 in touchdowns per drive, right? Like, this offense looks like it is singing. And then you go and you see that they're bottom 10 in turnovers per drive. And you go back to that Packers game that Richardson played. It's just killing himself with turnovers. You go back to that Bears game, which they won, but it was much closer than it should have been. Richardson's killing them with turnovers in the red zone. Like, they have to be able to protect the football. You're going to beat this Dolphins offense, pretty much the worst offense in the league since Tua went down. You're going to be able to control, even with Gus Bradley and that defensive weakness, you're going to be able to beat this line. You're going to be able to get stops in the trenches. The only way this thing gets close is if you start giving the Dolphins short fields, or if you take points off the board yourself by turning the football over. And it still is a Dolphins defense with some teeth. It's also an opportunistic Dolphins defense. Yeah. And so run the football, hammer into Richardson's head. This is the sort of game that you manage, not the sort of game that you impress. This is the sort of game that you manage. Let's get out of here with a home win. Let's stay in this AFC South race. No dumb turnovers.
It looks like Devon Achane will play in this one. He was back at practice. I mean, the Colts run defense has been pretty atrocious this season, but the Miami run game has also been atrocious. I keep waiting for that to, even without Tua at quarterback, I'm like, my McDaniel, can't you get something going in the run game? This would be it against this defense, but I have to see it to believe it. I'm on the Colts as well. I assume you're, regardless of who's playing quarterback. Sure. All right. Texans Packers, baby. This game rocks.
Low key, like, game of the season so far. Not actually, but like, there's a lot to learn. I'm very excited about this one.
CJ Stroud and Jordan Love. I think you're too young to understand this, and I'm going to be upset, but they're like the Betty and Veronica of the NFL for me.
That's an Archie Comics reference. What's up? I know things that happen.
Okay, who's Betty and who's Veronica?
Betty is the young woman with blonde hair. Veronica has the dark hair.
Which quarterback is...
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I thought you were testing my Archie's knowledge.
Not testing your Archie knowledge.
I feel like Veronica is the one with like the sports car, and like she's like kind of the flashier one. So I'd say that's Jordan Love.
Yeah,
and then Betty is more
Betty's like the wholesome, like does it by the book, which they're both like. It's like, wow, Archie, how can you choose between these two incredible babes?
I'm feeling great.
I love them both. And actually, it's kind of, I'm not trying to. CJ Stroud makes preposterous throws. I guess it's more about risk taking and like wildness. And Jordan Love is the wild boy of the NFL right now. But they both are two of my favorite quarterbacks to watch, and I cannot wait for this game. I have the Packers. I'll go first in this one. You have the key for Houston. There's so many directions that I could go in. I think what I'll say is this. This Houston defense is very good. They get after the quarterback. They have credible number one corner. They're getting good play from so many guys, and D'Amico Ryans is fantastic. I weirdly think, though, the type of offense Green Bay matches up well with them in a couple of ways. The fact that they don't have a number one wide receiver, I think this is one of those matchups where that works in your favor because you can go hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being like, we got to force feed whoever Derek Stingley Jr. is on. Not the case at all with Green Bay. Every week it's a different guy. And if I'm going hunting, I feel bad saying this, but I'm breaking out the Kyle Shanahan microscope, and I am pointing it at Henry
To'oTo'o. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man, but
Henry To'oTo'o is the hardest sort of player to talk about because for Texans fans, they see a guy who keeps making splash plays going downhill and he keeps knifing in between blocks and he makes tackles at the line of scrimmage. Like, we love this guy. And then you watch him on film and you're like, oh, but when he has to go backwards, it's just not
the
there.
Texans defense is amazing and everything, but they still suck against play action. 30th in EPA per play. That is a real 30th. And this Packers offense loves. I mean, I think Matt LaFleur pretty relentlessly goes after them. I expect a lot of play action pass in this one. And I think there's like a clear, not formula, but approach for the Green Bay offense.
Yeah, I think the side of the ball I'm most interested in is when the Packers have the ball for sure. This Houston defensive front is solving a lot of problems for them, right? I mean, like, and this is D'Amico Ryans, right? So this, Robert Saleh was the coach coming up, and like, it is no surprise that this is his approach. But I mean, they are too deep along the defensive line. They have a ton of penetration players, and they just say like, we're going to be able to wreak chaos here at the pocket and at the point of attack in the running game, and that's going to be able to protect some of our coverage, allow our guys to play very aggressive, very fast to routes, stick to routes, and we just think we're going to be able to win early in the down. All right, well, firstly, if Jordan Love gets a second in the pocket, he's looking 40 yards down the field, right? I mean, like his willingness to chuck the ball deep is you have to be able to pressure him. And you know that if you do pressure Love, I think about that second touchdown he threw to Romeo Doubs against the Cardinals. You got pressure in his face, he just yuck up a 50-50 ball. Like he will YOLO it at any context. And so if you do pressure him, you can expect to get turnovers. You can expect to get 3 and outs, right? Because he's pushing the ball down the field at low percentage completions. It's also really important in terms of the running game because the Packers, with Malik Willis and now with Jordan Love, still running the football really well on early downs, controlling the pace of the game, picking up 5 yards a pop. Josh Jacobs looks excellent so far this season. Like you have to be able to win in the trenches on this one because if you are losing at the point of attack, they're going to be able to run the ball on you, get into nice down and distance, and then they're going to be able to find spots to throw the football against you down the field and over the middle of the field. So it's Will Anderson, it's Danielle Hunter, it's Foley Fatukasi, it's like everybody from top to it's Jerry Hughes, it's Derek Barnett, it's everybody that you got. The complete and totality of playing defensive line here, like that's what wins this for Houston on defense.
I just realized, Denico Autry is back too. As if this Texans pass rush wasn't
Mario
already
Edwards
good enough.
Out for 4 weeks, plug Denico Autry, who's like the OG Mario Edwards right back
Timed that perfectly. One PD guy out, one PD guy out.
That's the new edge. That's what analytics is working on now. Is the PD
time it. I am fascinated by that matchup in the trenches because the pass rush for Houston has been extraordinary. The Packers offensive line has been very, very good. And Jordan Love has just been not taking sacks. In fact, he has the lowest pressure sack ratio in the NFL right now. Now he's played fewer games than most guys, but that to me stands out. The other thing though that I'm interested in from Green Bay's standpoint, Love's not been great when blitzed this year. And that was like his superpower last year, but 28th in QBR when blitzed this season. And this Houston defense has been blitzing at a much higher rate than last year. And I would be surprised if D'Amico doesn't call a fair amount of pressure in this one to see if he can force Love into making some mistakes.
Yeah, that like Love will always either be the best or the worst quarterback against the blitz because he is, and like I love it. Let me make it very clear. I endorse this, and this is the thing that like Niners fans get mad. Oh, Brock Purdy, like you're not giving Brock his credit. This is the thing that Brock does also for that offense. That's good. They play heavy metal, right? If we're going, we're going, right? If it's pressure, that means there's something to go get down the field. Like they feast or famine, and Love has lived that way since he took over for the Packers. I think against the Texans are a really good pressure team. And they do get up and they press wide receivers. They take away that early window. Like, I think this is the sort of game where like Jordan Love's going to have one drive in which he looks unbelievable. And then the next drive is just the worst pick you've ever seen. And it's going to be riding that roller coaster for Green Bay. That's important because on the other side, on the Betty side, right, when the Texans have the ball, CJ keeps it smooth, right? CJ, everything, we just manage the game from the pocket at a very high level.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this Packers defense Obviously, McKinney's been awesome, and they're getting decent play out of like surprise contributors. Evan Williams, but
Evan Williams, man.
yeah, he's
Come on.
great. But I still don't think this pass rush is very good. And I don't know. I certainly not having Nico Collins will help a great deal in this one. But I do think that, and the Packers' run defense has been okay too. It's just they're just not getting after quarterbacks the way you would like them to. There's an opportunity here, by the way. Like the strength on strength matchup is on the other side. Texans' offensive line is very vulnerable, so there's again an opportunity here for the pass rush Green Bay to get going. Because the thing about CJ is he keeps it smooth, but nothing else is smooth about this Texans offense. It's such a tough watch.
CJ's gonna win non-numbers MVP award this year, just on virtue of how much he's gotten his back for this offense right now.
Yeah, he's the honorary Justin Herbert of 20.
Exactly, yeah.
Which
it is worth noting, right? Joe Mixon comes back, and all of a sudden, the offense looks a lot smoother, right? Their commitment to that early down running game is very Joe Mixon reliant, which is concerning. Or actually, the success of it, I should say. They commit no matter what, but the success is very Joe Mixon reliant, which is frustrating. But it did look pretty good against the Patriots. I will say that without Nico Collins on the field, you saw the Texans. They wanted to go a little bit heavier personnel. They got a little bit more of the 2 tight end sets, and they wanted to be a little bit more condensed. If you do that against Green Bay, so far this season, Jeff Hafley, the new DC, they're trying to figure out what he likes. When he gets condensed set, the Cardinals give you a lot of that sort of stuff. He'll get 5th body up on the line, 6th body up on the line, right? He will put additional guys on the surface, and then you end up just playing man or maybe cover 3 behind it, but most likely you're playing man. And if I'm Houston, I'm watching that. Then I want to put bodies on the field to just go Stephon Diggs against Jair Alexander and go Stephon Diggs against Keyshawn Nixon, just expect myself to win that matchups. And so without Nico, if they're going to be a condensed team and then Diggs now gets reps out wide, could be a day for that Diggs trade has been nice for them. Okay, good. We have Stephon Diggs. Great. This could be the sort of day where it's 12 targets, 9 catches, 100. This could be the day where Diggs really pops them in Nico's absence.
He's looked excellent, by the way. Stephon Diggs has looked fantastic this year. Tank Dell clearly still coming back from the injury. I suspect we'll see him at his best at the end of the season rather than right now. But used to, definitely a helpful player. I mean, he had a lot of success, by the way, against it was the Bills he played last. I'm totally blanking. That wasn't
the Diggs, yeah.
Or who's the team that the Texans played last?
The Patriots.
The Patriots, pardon me.
Okay. I was like, what are you asking?
The Patriots play a lot of man coverage, and Tank Dell was shredding that at times. So,
yeah.
All right. For the break, you have the Bengals and the Browns. Sorry. We skipped it because we got to pick this one because this is actually really hard. Packers Texans is a tough pick.
Yes. Packers 2.5 point favorites at home. So it's right about neutral in terms of team strength. I'll give you a second. I'll go. I think Houston wins it. There's a lot about the Packers I don't feel like I understand yet. There's a lot about the Texans that I have my doubts about. These are 2 teams with good records, with very high ceilings, but to this point of the season has been incomplete, both of these teams. So when I go to figure out whose problems are going to come back and bite them in the butt first, I just look at a Packers defense that is still creating turnovers at the league's highest rate while also not pressuring the quarterback, which is not how it's supposed to work. And I say, okay, if there's any Jenga piece that falls this week for both of these teams, that to me is the piece that eventually is going to fall. Especially CJ, so good at avoiding turnovers. I know a lot of that was there was some luck in that, it was an insane streak, but in general, really good at avoiding picks. I think Houston wins this. I don't think I know who wins this though.
Yeah, I'm inclined to go Houston as well because they're the more balanced team, and I think CJ will be able to, to your point, avoid. The thing about CJ is we get to be the Texans offense, they're so good at eating over the middle of the field, Nico Collins, Diggs, whatever. He also throws the most beautiful out ball in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, some of the ball placement he has on throws breaking outside, and I think he'll be able to. He's been
scrambling great this year. There's
the throws he makes on the run this season. My God.
There's I don't know how to say this without saying it. There's nothing that CJ Stroud can't do on the field to the level of very good to elite. If you made me pick a non-Mahomes, Allen, Lamar quarterback to win a game with tomorrow, I think it's I think it's CJ Stroud. I think it's not close. Everything he does on the field is perfect through 6 weeks of the season. It's disgusting.
He is the Betty of the NFL. Okay, wait. So Browns Bengals.
Okay, yeah.
From 2 great quarterbacks to 1 great quarterback.
Bengals, huge favorites, traveling to Cleveland. I don't it sucks for so bad because the defense. Yeah,
Walking
Porter
back
Chubb.
into
The
that.
defense numbers aren't good, but if you go and you watch them, like
Yeah.
they're successful. They're facing so many down. They're seeing so many snaps. They're facing such bad field position. They're not getting the rest that other defenses
Yeah.
get because the offense can't hold on to the football. Like it's terrible. So the key to this one for Cincinnati, I think you just trust your star wideouts and you have to win with those guys on the outside. Obviously, the Browns giving a very high rate of man coverage, very high rate of single high coverage, as they're wanting to do with Jim Schwartz. They've so far struggled with some top receivers this year. Terry McLaurin had a good game against them. AJ Brown, we just saw excellent down the field. Malik Neighbors had a high volume, productive game scoring against them. Their guys are still their guys. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson. It's really hard to live in man coverage every single year and not, you're fighting an uphill battle. Emerson, I think, has struggled a lot on the outside this year. Greg Newsome from the slot, like he's tight to a lot of these routes, but he's just giving up a lot of catches because it's really hard to do in the modern NFL with how good these receivers are. And so you put Jamar on one side, you put T on the other side, and you expect to win those matchups. I will note that last year the Bengals had the Browns in week 1. And Joe Burrow was awful in that game, 14 for 31, 82 yards. Myles Garrett has recorded a sack in the last 7 games that he has played against the Bengals. They have really struggled with this Browns pass rush over time. And so if they're not getting rid of the ball quickly, then I do think there's a role where there's a high sack game for Joe, be a turnover game for Joe, and like it just ends up being very low scoring and stinky and accordingly close. But I think overall, Bengals are the better team.
Yeah, the biggest thing going for them is it's not for working against Cleveland is it's other than their own quarterback and everything else. It's October 16th. Like if they were playing the Bengals in week 1, I might actually give some hope to that defense. I'd like to see this Bengals defense build on what they showed against New York. This is you played the team in front of you, and the offense in front of you is horrible. So if this Bengals team wants to be taken seriously, as a team who can rip off enough wins, to squeak into the playoffs. Show something on defense here because I have no doubt that the offense can move.
I think DJ Turner, who's been playing for them in Dax Hill's absence, has actually showed some really nice things. I think BJ Hill being back has been a big help.
Last week.
I don't need you to be the 10th best defense. I need you to be the 18th, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Competence,
yeah,
please.
I am also interested to see what the Browns offense looks like without Amari because, like,
are you interested in that?
Yes,
I'm not
because I have a lot of Cedric Tillman stock that I'd like to cash, and he's about to get a lot more snaps.
Jake Trotter, who used to cover the Browns for us, who doesn't even cover the team anymore, had one of the most savage tweets I saw after the Amari trade. He was the one who pointed out that the only other player with multiple touchdowns was Rodney McLeod on the Browns roster.
Rodney McLeod, offensive force in the late stage of his career.
All right, let's take a quick break, come back, and head over to your account. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, we're back. Eagles, Giants.
Go Birds.
You have the Birds. You're the away team. So you go first in this one because I have some thoughts.
Yeah, the key for the Eagles here is to just feed Saquon and let him beat the Giants, right? Which I think, firstly, like him back in MetLife going up against this defense, like you would expect this to be a Saquon day kind of under any circumstances just because of the narrative, right? Very exciting stuff. But if you look at this Giants defense, which has been surprisingly plucky, very much Shane Bowen, little Dexter Lawrence, sexy Dexy. Dexter Lawrence, by the way, 7 sacks in the season. He's second in the league in sacks. He plays nose tackle. This is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Did not practice, by the way.
Oh,
yesterday.
Devastating. All right, well, that's
Neither
even better
did Brian
news.
Burns.
Yeah, so Burns
just
told
something
reporters. Burns told reporters he's good to go. Like it's a groin that he's kind of been fighting with for honestly since his Panther days. But the even with Lawrence on the field, the Giants by like success rate, a fine run defense, by explosive run rate, pretty bad, right? Yeah. They give up the 3rd most explosive runs in football. They play with a lot of guys deep in the 2 deep safety team, and they kind of rotate back there. And when you're a rotating team that moves the picture a lot, you can end up with some really wonky run fits and then some big explosive runs. And so if you're the Eagles now, you are trying to just let Saquon chip away 4 yards, chip away 4 yards, chip away 4 yards, expecting to eventually pop one, a big one, and go from there. It's also going to help you protect Hurts a little bit. This is the sort of defense against which Hurts tends to struggle, right? Again, change of picture defense. They send blitzers from weird spots. And you're also probably missing Dallas Goedert for this game, certainly missing right tackle Jordan Mailata for this game. And so you can expect to suffer for the pass rush, especially with Burns expected to go. So it'd be nice to run the football and take some of the wind out of that pass rush a little bit. Goddard is your like underneath guy, right? Your check down guy. You're going to be absent him as well. And so I think this is a big game to run the football and to let Saquon rip off his big gains, give him the ball early, give him the ball often, and expect that you can just control clock, control tempo, dominate this team in the trenches.
I'm interested in seeing how Shane Bowen, the Giants defensive coordinator, approaches this matchup. The Giants play with the highest light box rate against the run in the NFL. Part of the reason why they've allowed some of those explosives, but he really has trusted that defensive front to compensate for some of the issues on the back end. Of course, that is a scary proposition against the Eagles, who are one of the best rushing teams, regardless of how many guys you have Bucs. But the problem is the Eagles did have shown that now, with AJ Brown back in the lineup, you saw last week, certainly against Cleveland, if you play single high against them, they still have the ability to punish you outside with AJ Brown. So I think for the Giants, I am wondering, like, okay, what do they, how much, and this is my key for them, how many bodies do they have to devote to stop the run in this one, right? Like, and I think that question is going to determine whether or not they have success on the back end. The Eagles, it's funny, Mel Kiper voice. The Eagles can't beat cover 2, man. Like, they are, like, Jalen Hurts has been atrocious this year against cover 2. But again, some defenses are not likely to play as much against them. So I think that sort of balance between stopping the run, but then also playing the right, structurally on the back end, dealing with those two receivers is going to be key for New York.
Yeah. I mean, like, the Eagles offense is not serious, right? It just like it's so well known at this point what they can and can't do. It's known what their buttons are going to be. Okay, you give them man coverage, it's going to be AJ Brown down the field. Okay, if you give him light boxes, it's going to be a heavy run game. You get Jalen Hurts on third down, you must rush him. He leaves the pocket to his right. He can't throw on the run. Like, everybody knows the score at this point. And Shane Bowen is a smart defensive coordinator. And so I do think that, like, this is not going to be a nice, happy, explosive day for the Eagles on offense, nor do I think they're going to get very many of those. Like, the Browns are the sort of team that they, 2 years ago, put 45 on, and they put 20 on them, right?
That's a great point.
Yeah, the offensive line just isn't what it used to be. And with Hurts, it's very known what he will and won't throw at this point. So Bowen, I think, is going to be able to get his. I think they're largely going to beat the Eagles on the chalkboard when the Eagles hold the football. It's the fact that the Eagles have just Jimmys and Joes that beat your X's and O's, right? Like, when I give the ball to Saquon, I just think I'm going to win, even if you're out scheming me on 66, 70% of plays, because eventually he pops one, right? AJ Brown, eventually he pops one. Brown's only played, 2.25 games at this point, and, like, it's just been unbelievably productive. Like, he's still just that guy. And so
amazing.
It's always hard with these Eagles games because you talk about it on a Thursday, a Wednesday, you think they're going to lose because they're going to get out schemed, but their personnel is just so superior.
Yeah, I also like generally the way the defense is trending. Again, and obviously you're playing Deshaun Watson, that Browns impotent offense, not the greatest challenge this week based on what we saw from New York last week, but it feels there's been, like, a lot of settling in terms of, like, who's playing, what positions are they playing, and it feels like they're kind of this is your account, but it feels like, to my eye, they're kind of figuring things out on defense with Vic Fangio. The young rookie corners are both played really well last week. Cooper, and then Quinion Mitchell has been excellent in my opinion. And then obviously the interior pass rush I could see being a problem for New York. I don't think they're a great defense, but I think they're good enough to beat teams like this. And as you said, I think, the offense has enough players that just the Giants do not match up well with.
My concern with them going against this offense, though, is that, like, when the Vic Fangio defense works, even as intended, there's still a lot of, like, free access stuff. There's a lot of, like, okay, we'll give you X underneath.
They were pressing against Cleveland, by the way, though. That's the thing. That was interesting to see.
Right. And so I'm very interested, because if that's the future plan, sick, cool. If that was, we don't respect Deshaun Watson, I don't know how long it's going to, right. Yeah. Okay. Yes, but still, Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Daniel Jones, I feel like, are more. I'm more worried about pressing them than I am pressing any team that's employing Deshaun Watson to play quarterback. So I'm very interested to see if that does continue. Obviously, they got DeJean back as well. I think they feel better with him in coverage over slot. So maybe that's we don't have to protect Maddox anymore. Like, now we can be more physical and go. So it's very interesting to see how they play this team, because if they play kind of traditional Vic Fangio approach, it's going to be a lot of Wan'Dale Robinson right now, Malik Neighbors right now, ball out in a second and a half, and then it becomes a tackle game. And I don't like that game for the Eagles.
It's been such a weird season for the defense. I was kind of using a bit of a paraphrasing a little when I was like, they're settling in, but the every week he's shown such variance with his game plans. Vic Fangio, speaking of, right? Like you go back to the Saints game, brilliant game plans, the fronts, it's amazing. Like, oh my God, he figured out how to stop the Saints offense. Then the next week, everybody's, the Bucs, I think it was right after that, they're sitting in off coverage and just letting Baker, as your point, dice them up underneath. Easy. Then against Cleveland, he's like, all right, let's press, let's be aggressive. We don't respect them. And it works. And I'm like, great. And as we've been discussing, I'm like, okay, well, what are we gonna get next week, Vic? Like, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because he's such a funny guy because he's the father of so many of these defenses, but he himself has called very different defenses over the course of his career. And it feels to me, Ben, like the Eagles are still figuring out exactly how to get the most out of their personnel.
Yeah. When you hire an offensive coach, you hire a scheme, you hire a system, right? And that's why you can go and hire Kyle Shanahan's passing game coordinator and it works. When you hire a defensive coach, you hire the Rolodex, you hire the answers, you hire the history, you hire the versatility. You want a guy who has a lot in his bag. Defense is an inherently reactive position. You have to be willing to do different things. You can't dictate the terms. Brian Flores' defense is notwithstanding, like and even then, Flores is a guy who has a lot of answers, a lot of different pitches within his defense. So with Vic, like the reason why Vic is a better hire and is a more interesting Eagles defensive coordinator than Sean Desai, who was there last year from the system, is because he can spin out the Saints bespoke game plan for a week, can go and spin out the Browns specific game plan for a week. You have to, like, in order to do that, you have the bye week, you're coming out of Cleveland, you have Cooper DeJean coming back. Okay, great. You get the jump on the Browns. Okay, now it's Brian Dable and Daniel Jones. Like, they do a lot of weird stuff, the Giants do. They walk out and they look different every single week. So this is where that kind of neuters your advantage a little bit. It's not going to be as predictable. You need your players to play well.
That's a good point.
It'd be so nice if they could rush the passer.
That's the thing. He's having to do all this with a fairly lackluster pass rush. All right, Raiders, Rams. I'm putting a clock on this 60 seconds.
All right.
I just wrote Stafford red zone. I don't know that. I mean, the Rams should win this one. The Raiders have called it on the season pretty much. We'll see if they trade anyone else. But they're awful on both sides of the ball. The Rams are also, the defense has been horrible this year. But you do get Matthew Stafford. I don't think Cooper Kupp. Let me check. I don't think he's playing this one. I probably should.
Yeah, I think they're kind of posturing that he's going to play. I find
could be available.
It doesn't
even without him. I do think this offense can do enough to win this game. I think they'll be able to run the ball on Vegas. But Stafford has been really bad statistically in the red zone. The offense has not looked good to me. It's a lot of weird. I mean, and it kind of is it feels like McVay gets into the red zone and he's no longer feeling comfortable calling the same. This is where the complete change in talent with the receivers is really affecting the play calling. But so I just identified that as a key in terms of like the Rams winning this one because otherwise I just think they'll take their quarterback.
Yeah, Rams are a 7-point favorite as a 1-win team, which I feel like maybe is not
don't like that
common. Yeah. Like the Raiders, I feel bad because like no Devontae, you're switching to Aiden O'Connell. Like we kind of all knew what the score would be coming into the season. Like this is just, it is not the quarterback play isn't viable here. Defensively, man, like they're doing stuff. They got Divine Diablo's playing well. Crosby's looking good. Adam Butler makes plays. Like I always want to have a little bit more faith in them than I get to because their defense just gets put in bad down and distances and they can't control game flow at all. And so like, yeah, I think it's Rams the whole way.
Panthers, Commanders. I put you on this.
Okay. The Panthers are not going to win this game. However, if you shorten the game here and you run the football really well, I think that this can get a lot closer than people realize. Since Dalton took over, this team is third in rushing success rate as a team. Chuba Hubbard and this line have been excellent on early downs and creating space and staying ahead of the sticks. So Jonathan Brooks is practicing. Maybe he gets this game, maybe he doesn't. I feel comfortable with Hubbard being out there. Like the running game has clearly worked. This Commanders run defense, man, is just plain bad. And now John Allen is out. And there were two guys who were solving run defense for the Commanders. It was John Allen. It was Frankie Luvu. And John Allen's out for the rest of the season. You are going to be able, they are 9th worst in explosive rush. The Panthers are 9th in explosive rush rate. The Commanders are 2nd worst in explosive rush rate surrendered. Like I said, Panthers are 3rd in rushing success rate. Commanders bottom 5 in rushing success rate. Just run the football. Run it the whole way down the field. Take the air out of this game. Put that opposing offense on the sideline. And so long as you score in the red zone, right, which the Panthers been a little shaky, but as long as we get the ball in the red zone, we finish our drives. This is going to be a very high scoring game, and it's probably going to be a 1-score game down the stretch. Panthers defense can't really stop anybody, but neither can this Commanders team if you play them right. And I really think that the Panthers, like I know Dalton, like Xavier Leggett, and like there's been a lot of talk about the passing game. This running game is what really impresses me. The line improvement, Hubbard's play, like run the football and make this thing short, make it close, and get a little regression. I think it's going to be a close game.
I don't know about close, but I also share your skepticism of this Commanders defense. I think if that would be like, if I'm a Commanders fan, this is again like just show me something, kind of like, all right, we want to be seen as a serious, playoff team. Defense has to play better than they've been playing thus far this year. That's a unit, by the way, I would look at as a potential trade, an acquirer of talent. Would you, if you were Adam Peters, I was like, who's your team again? Would you want a corner, an edge rusher? What would you want?
I'd really want Montez Sweat, just as like a random name that I could bring up hypothetically on this team. Okay, so I think
passer and defend the run.
I lean defensive lineman because I think that Dan Quinn is always best when he has a stable of guys. I think I would prefer to have an edge rusher and be able to affect the pocket a little bit more, especially in Allen's absence. I am highly suspicious of any and all cornerback improvement in Washington. But what I will say, like, Mike Sainer still rookie corner. They expect him to be a slot for them. He's had to play the outside. Not been too bad on the outside. And then Noah Benogany, whose career I thought was like dust. Ex-first round pick, was like, not playing well. Dolphins, Vikings. Been in the slot, I'll tell you. It's not the worst slot corner play I've seen this season. Not by a long shot. So Benjamin St-Juste is still an issue for them on the outside, but the corner play has been a little bit better than I expected.
It's what he has been for that defense. So.
I've said a lot of mean things about Benjamin St-Juste in my career, and I'm trying to take a little off the pitch. It's tough. I mean, like, Emmanuel Forbes is a healthy scratch for this team right now, and that was your top 16 pick at corner. Like, they're very thin at that position.
All right, I'm on the Commanders. Okay.
I think the Commanders win, but Panthers plus 7.5 is very interesting to me.
We got 4 great games. At least 3 great games. At least 2 great games. Chiefs Niners. It's funny that you say. Do you not view this as equal to Texans Packers or Lions Vikings?
So Texans Packers, I just like, those are 2 teams that I'm very fascinated with right now. Yeah. Chiefs and 49ers, I feel like I know the nature of both teams a little bit more. This is going to be a very good game though. The Super Bowl rematch with both the teams being like very different positions than they were when they last played. It's cool.
Yeah. Okay, well, you go first. You have the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, unlike everyone else, did not trade for wide receiver this weekend. Can I just say, I feel like this game might actually affect whether or not they trade for a wide receiver. All right, continue.
It should. I mean, they are right now, they are second in success rate while being also lowest in explosive play rate. That is not a good place to be as an offense. It means you have to be picture perfect the whole way down in order to score. And it's very annoying that Patrick is letting them get away with this. And it does not behoove them to continue getting away with this because eventually the nightman cometh. You cannot live like this in the NFL. You need to be able to put explosives on the field. My key for them, though, is not on the offense. On the defensive side of the ball, I want to challenge the Niners and challenge Brock Purdy a little bit more. I go back to that game they played in the Super Bowl, that awesome Steve Spagnuolo quote after they won, right? It's way easier to give that quote after you won, but he said, hey, like, Brock knew what we were doing zone coverage wise. Like, Brock was fine in the space. He was fine in the seams. Like, they gave a lot of hat tips, a lot of hat off to Brock Purdy, who I thought played a pretty solid game against that really tough Spags defense. Remember, it was peaking last year. I thought he played very well. This year, Brock destroying zone coverage, just lighting it on fire. Yes. Next Gen Stats had a great stat against the Seahawks. Brock Purdy, all of his production came against zone coverage. He did not complete any of his 6 passes against man coverage because if you just drop into zone against this team, like, Brock is too fast. He sees the space too quick, and these guys are so good after the catch. You have to be willing to play some man coverage. You're going to lose some reps, but you're also going to be able to challenge the receivers early. You're going to be able to take away the early throwing windows, and then you can get after the quarterback. This Niners line, when they're in traditional pass protection, when they're in drop back pass, not been super great this season. Everybody's given up multiple pressures, including Trent Williams, who I think is great, but has also shown father time a little bit.
Careful.
Father time just a little bit. Again, from Next Gen Stats, since week 3, Chiefs lead the league in pressure rate, lead the league in unblocked pressures generated. Man. So I'm trying to against last time I played Brock Purdy, and this was a little bit of a different offense, Christian McCaffrey, I played more zones. I took a little bit off the pitch. I tried to, survive the 14, 15 play drive. No Christian McCaffrey. They're living on deep balls this year. I'm turning the heat up on the burner. And I'm trying to play some man. I'm trying to send some pressures and create some explosives on defense.
This feels like a game where Chris Jones can run away with Defensive Player of the Year if he has a big game. That's an if, because there's a lot of things. I mean, watching the way offenses this year have approached defending Chris Jones has been one of my favorite subplots of every Chiefs game, because every offensive coordinator takes a different tack, but it's and you really like you see what you can, right, when you're watching it in real time. We're talking Aaron Donald like treatment this season, and he is playing out of his gourd.
And that's the thing about Donald that was always such a big deal, was like, it's so much harder to dominate from defensive tackle because it's so much easier to get multiple hands on you, get multiple bodies on you. And with Chris Jones, they're just like, listen, he can survive, he can split the double. And they're playing him on the edge on 25% of his snaps this year.
Yeah.
He's playing defensive end.
I think what's going to be massive for Kansas City in this one, because they're going to flush Brock Purdy, right? Like, if the Seahawks Stevens can do it, Chris Jones can do it. And he gets Brock Purdy, when he throws with anticipation, it's great, and he's extremely good at that. And he's made some really, really nice throws, but you will see him, bail occasionally. The Seahawks could not tackle him, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, he has been excellent, really, his entire career, but this year it's really jumped out to me. He has made. It's funny because it's actually not too dissimilar from the guy on the other side of the field. I'm not comparing them as quarterbacks, but the way he always seems to scramble for 8 yards when he needs 7, the way he eludes rushers, despite not, neither of these guys are Lamar Jackson, but actually, there is some continuity there. So I think for Kansas City, it's going to be paramount when you flush him from the pocket, when he goes left, can you keep him from getting a first down? Can you contain him as a scrambler? I think they've been quite good at that, to be clear. So I don't think that that's a matchup that necessarily favors San Francisco. I just think it's going to be really, really important. I am also interested, by the way, like the Chiefs' run defense this year has statistically been much better than they were last season when it was a weakness of this team. How do you feel about that particular matchup?
Yeah, so we talked about that defense again facing the Saints last time we were on. I was like, yeah, Chiefs defense looks great against the run. And I'm just like, I'm not sure how much I buy it. And then we're 2 weeks beyond. I'm like, listen, when Spags wants to dedicate the bodies for it, right? And they've done a nice job acquiring these bodies. Go and get George Karlaftis, go and get Leo Chanel, like Chamari Connor, like these guys step down and play the run. So they've acquired the bodies for it. When they put them on the field, great. When they're in their pass defense, right? When they're not putting that personnel on the field, I still have a lot of questions. Again, like talked about with Shane Bowen with the Giants, when you are a change the picture defense, you can really struggle for fitting the run because you are putting yourself in a position where you are moving gaps and moving bodies and changing assignments on the fly. And so if this were the Christian McCaffrey game and the Niners could so seamlessly hide their pass run intentions, sure, right? Like, take advantage of the Chiefs on the ground. Without him on the field, right? You go Jordan Mason, you go, Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle on the field. I have far fewer pass threats to fear, right? I don't fear Mason. I don't fear Juszczyk catching the football. With no Christian McCaffrey out there, I can feel a little bit more like, all right, commit some run personnel, run defense to this. And then if and when Jawan Jennings shows up onto the field now and you're in 2nd and 9, now I'm going to put my pass defense out. So you can play a little bit more of the personnel game in the huddle.
So for the Niners, who I'm on the Niners, not on, sorry. I'm giving keys for the Niners here. We've talked about some of the things that I just kind of been thinking about from the other side of the ball in terms of dealing with pressure. One of the ways too, that I feel with, I do think this is a game where you want to see Brock Purdy throwing the ball pretty quickly. And if I were them, I feel like I've said this a million times today, but I would go after these linebackers. They are fantastic against the run. They can absolutely be had in coverage. They play a lot of base defense. Kyle Shanahan can get them on the field. And once he gets them on the field, he should go hunting for matchups. He did it with a lot of success against Seattle. They're better linebackers than the Seahawks linebackers. I am not pretending, but even if these like Nick Bolton's great, but I still like Deebo Samuel on him in coverage. So that is something I would go after. I also think there will be opportunities downfield as well, but that to me is going to be predicated on buying time against a pass rush, which I don't love that matchup as much.
Yeah, that's why I want to play man. Like I want to put my 6 defensive backs on the field because Spags loves to be in dime, and I want to send I want to play man coverage, and then I also want to send pressure, and then I can play zone or man behind that. And like, again, I acknowledge and accept the reality that I will give up a 50-yard touchdown. You got to live with that against the Niners, right? This is the world that we live in. That's going to happen. It's just, if I can get enough explosives on defense to account for that, I can create a winnable game.
We kind of breezed over a little bit, but just to finish and take it back to the pass catchers, they don't have enough, right? Like the Chiefs, pardon me, to go back to the Chiefs against.
I was about to be like, yeah, you're right. They need to add someone to
because the Niners defense is vulnerable to the run, but the Chiefs can't run the ball very well right now. Like they just don't. We saw the Juju Smith-Schuster game, and it was great against New Orleans. Amazing. Is it going to repeat against San Francisco? I'm skeptical, Ben. I feel like we're going to come out of this game. Maybe I'm wrong. I certainly last week this feels like they can't keep getting away with this. And then.
Right, but they can't keep getting away with this. Like, they actually can't.
Noah Brown is going to go off for like 50 yards or something stupid in this. I just feel like because they can't run the ball particularly well, this is going to be one where the absence of a number one wide receiver is going to show up.
And that was the thing, is like with Pacheco on the field, I'm like, all right, like I see the vision, I see the running game, I see the way we chunk it and we go. That, like, again, you talk about Juju. Kareem Hunt played the best game of the last 3 years against the Saints. Like, is he going to be able to total 100 yards on 20 carries again? Like, that just doesn't feel likely to me. And if they keep getting away with it, they keep getting away with it. It's preposterous that they can. But whatever. Listen, if we're wrong and none of us understood football and the Chiefs can just put whoever on the field and win, then great. That's sick for them. But in my head, there are rules, and the rules are you need more than one good player.
I mean, I could, though, see Chris Jones taking over this game. I really could. I could completely see. I think the Chiefs, and Mahomes said, like, I think the Chiefs defense is that good to where this offense can kind of, flap their way through. I don't know. Why is an offense doing that?
Is that a bird mascot that I'm not aware of?
I was thinking about a duck with like
little paddle,
a lot of duck talk in our house right now. Yeah. I think this defense is good enough to where, I would not be shocked if they win any game. And obviously the quarterback is who he is, but
any Andy Reid off a bye concern, right? Like 2 weeks. He's 21-4 now in his career against off the bye.
By the way, you know who's given up the second most EPA per play to quarterbacks who run? San Francisco.
So the Niners are not fast.
Yeah.
In the defensive, like I doubt both of these teams tremendously. They won the Super Bowl last year.
Who are you taking?
I think the Niners win the game. I am going to appear on this podcast and in consecutive appearances pick against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, which is a preposterous thing to do. But I don't like
tricked me last time.
Yeah, I did. You were so on the Chiefs, and I took you to Saints land. You have the coverage guys in terms of Travaris Ward and Deommodore Lenoir and Isaac Yiadom to challenge them, press them at the line of scrimmage, and rush the passer and take advantage, like Bosa against these tackles. Like you have the matchups where you should be able to slow down this offense. I acknowledge that for some unbelievable reason it probably won't happen, but the Chiefs should not be good on offense, and they will lose this game to the 49ers. Ben Solak guaranteed. I feel horrible.
I'm going to take
this
the Chiefs just because I can't pick it. My entire the last 4 years I have been adamant about Chiefs will be fine. Chiefs will be fine. Chiefs will be fine. Chiefs will be fine.
Yes.
And I want to make something clear. When I'm saying the Chiefs are going to come out of this saying we need a receiver, that doesn't mean they're not going to win games. Like, we're talking about January and February with the Chiefs. We're also, by the way, in the arms race. These other teams in the AFC are acquiring receivers. It feels significant.
You calling
and
for?
It feels.
If you're the Chiefs right now and Amari and Devontae just moved, who are you calling?
I like Christian Kirk for them.
Yeah.
I think it just makes sense. I'm not saying it's a huge deal, but in terms of like fulfilling the Rashee Rice role, just makes sense.
Yeah, Christian Kirk was the name I had when Rice first went down. I was like, I feel like that makes sense. The problem is they don't like finding nice, happy receivers. They like finding guys who run really fast down the field and who can't be consistent down to down.
All right. Jets, Steelers, Sunday Night Football. So the latest, Adam Schefter, I want to make sure I get this right because I'm quoting him. This is very pertinent to this game. Adam Schefter tweeted, I almost just created a Twitter Spaces trying to find this.
I'd hop in. Let's finish the pod on Twitter.
Okay. Adam Schefter posted that it is trending towards Russell Wilson starting Sunday night versus Davante Adams and the Jets.
Sure.
I am giving keys for the Steelers. My response to that is the key is they have to dominate the Jets' offensive line.
They can. They are equipped to do so.
Yeah. I was just like, okay, let's talk about the Wilson Fields aspect of this before. I mean, yesterday we talked about it, and my reaction was, what's the point? The only way this would make sense, and some people are misinterpreting that as a defense of Justin Fields. It is entirely a take about Russell Wilson because, Fields has not been fantastic this year, but the Russell Wilson we saw in 2022 and 2023 was worse. I don't care what stats you show me. I don't care what randomly cherry-picked red zone numbers you have. I don't care about, what the Broncos offense looks like. I am telling you as somebody who, with my 2 eyes, who watched him play football, it was not pretty. It was basically a series of checkdowns, sacks, and the occasional nice deep shot.
Yeah.
All right.
I asked you what the most recent good Russell Wilson game was in the pre-show, and I went back and I looked, and there was that stretch in the middle of last season. They beat the Chiefs, right? He threw 3 touchdowns. They won that game. Like, they got a couple turnovers, and then the next week they beat the Bills, right? And he was like 24 for 29 at 200 yards and a couple scrambles. Like, that was the last good statistical stretch. So I went and I speed ran those 2 games earlier today. It's just not good film. Like, it's bad quarterbacking. It's just, he's late to everything. It's behind the line of scrimmage, right? It's 50-50 balls that Cortland Sutton makes right. Like, it's just not quality quarterbacking. I can't remember the last time I watched a Russell Wilson game and I was like, oh, there he is. It's been years.
I just don't know why. I know the whole minimum game, but it's not worth it to go from a 6 to a 4. That's just whatever. I mean, look, maybe he'll shock the world and he'll look better than he did the last 2 years. My point was simply the quarterback we saw the last 2 years is not one worth making a change for. That said, in this game, for me, the key for the Pittsburgh is really about this defense. So you can talk about the Jets side, and they have Davante Adams now, and that's going to be really interesting to see. However, Davante Adams don't fix that offensive line. And we just watched Tyron Smith get dominated by AJ Epinesa. No disrespect to AJ, who's a nice player.
Listen, those of us with our AJ Epinesa over Chase Young take from the 2020 NFL draft, 2021. Anyway, those of us were cashing, baby. Good game for AJ.
Yeah. The Steelers pass rush is very, very good. They are healthier now. And they have the potential to take over this game. Can we take a minute to give some love for Cam Hayward, by the way? As someone who's been like a long Cam Hayward, just obviously friend of the program, but separately from that, I swear this is not my bias speaking. He is balling the out this year.
It is. It's the best defensive line in football. Yeah. It is Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, and second-year player Keanu Benton, who looks delightful, and Montravius Adams, a defensive tackle. And then on the edge, it is Alex Highsmith with TJ Watt, and then Nick Herbig, who's their kind of their third down ringer. They're kind of speedster off the edge. It is the best defensive line in football. Period. They are they're such a headache in terms of depth, and then they have TJ Watt also, and there's just no way to handle all of that consistently. It's amazing.
I have a question for you. If you're Mike Tomlin. So the Steelers defense does not blitz, right? They blitz at, if not the lowest, like near the bottom, because they don't have to, because the 4-man rush is insane. Rodgers has really struggled against the blitz this year. Now, Davante Adams certainly changes that equation. But what if you broke some of your tendencies and sent pressure? Because they're not going to be, again, the Steelers do not blitz. Right. So there might be an opportunity here to break tendency a little bit on early downs, maybe mix it up. But you'd have to really, again, hide your intentions.
Yeah. And the thing is, I would say, make me do it. I'm prepared to do it, right? I think you should walk in knowing that we might need this on a late down and distance. So we might need it to break glass case of emergency. But first, I want to see you make me do it, because I think I could beat you with a 4-down rush, right? I have no reason to believe that I can't cover for long enough on enough downs to then get some one-on-ones against this offensive line, win those, and then Rodgers can't move in the pocket, right? So, like, I would imagine that they're going to have a couple of blitzes. I would imagine this is going to be a higher blitz rate game for them because of Rodgers' lack of mobility, right? Because of all the sight adjustment and the hot routes and all the communication that's required to make this passing game go for the Jets. But first, I want you to put me in that spot, make me get there, and then I'll change my stripes for you.
I think there's gonna be, this game to me feels like a in-game adjustments game because the Davante Adams is such an X factor.
Mm-hmm.
The assumption is he's going to come in and immediately, right? It's like putting your hand in a glove. No, putting on an old pair of jeans.
Just making up idioms.
The analogy I'm thinking of, I don't want to use in front of you. It's going to make you uncomfortable. Can you cover your face?
Okay. I'm over here now. You can't see me.
It's like when you hook up with an ex and you just there's just
Mina, oh my God, no!
There's a comfort level there. All right, that was rated R.
My mom's gonna be devastated. I tell you.
I'm just saying, the expectation is that all those balls that have been, the miscommunication, the receivers is a little bit off, tightly off, and by the way, a lot of them they're coming out so fast, right? Because Rodgers wants to throw the ball quickly. That it's going to be perfect with Adams. And if it is perfect with Adams, I think that's really going to affect the Steelers' pressure. The Steelers have to dominate at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. But it might not be.
Mm.
I mean, he just got there.
Yeah. And also, if it is, then I very quickly am going to go, okay, let's make someone besides this guy beat me. I will put a safety over, I know how to deal with star receivers. I'll put a safety over the top. I'll put Joey Porter Jr. to the line of scrimmage. I'm going to make you, Aaron Rodgers, who just got Davante Adams back, choose to not throw to him in favor of another receiver. Because, obviously Rodgers funneled targets to Davante. I think it was the 2020 season, might have been 2019 at preposterously high rates. I can't recall, but he was getting 140 targets. He did that. But you have to throw to other players during the game, right? And they cannot live on Breece Hall screen, Braylon Allen screen, Garrett Wilson screen. Oh, but every downfield route is Davante. They can't do that. Well, no one can.
Also, the Steelers' run defense is excellent, and I think that the Jets, I am not buying that the Jets' rushing attack is at all fixed. Yeah. They had a couple of explosives against Buffalo, but they're not a good running team still.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers has the opportunity to do the funniest thing, which is just ignore Davante Adams and throw to Allen Lazard all game.
Just the best ever distraction, just a total okie doke during the week.
The decoy. Yeah.
Honestly, no, but my key for the Jets in this game is right. Let's not put all of our eggs in one basket. And I mean that in two separate ways. One is we cannot walk out with 24 Davante Adams targets. You just can't. He just got there. He's also not the same player he was, right? His next-gen stats tracking, his speed, his top speed, his get off of line of scrimmage, all has been going down the last few years. He's 32 years old, okay? And obviously some of that is, I don't really like playing for the Raiders. They're putting me on different routes. But still, he's older than he was last time he was playing with Rodgers.
He was also hurt. Don't forget.
Yeah, the hamstring was tight right around the I hate being here joint. You know that joint, right? A little tightness there. So you have, A, don't put all your eggs in that one basket. Yeah. B, and this is kind of a larger scale thing, but I think this is really important. They walked into that Bills game being like, we've changed the head coach and we have a new play caller and we're going to get fixed. Home game, island game, it's fixed. Right. And they ran more motion and they had a lot of the same problems they had previously and they lost. So now, okay, we acquired Davante Adams. And if you get up like this again, right, we're going to do it. Everything's going to say we're going to solve all the problems, right? And then you lose to the Steelers, it's going to come crashing down. You can't win 2 games in 1 week. You can't get back into the playoffs with 1 win. This has to be methodical. There needs to be an adult in the room, namely Jeff Ulbrich, to be like, listen, we're going to keep building and keep building and keep building. And the wins are going to handle themselves. I don't get very coach speaky here, but you can't walk into this game saying, now that we have Davante, everything's going to be fixed. Because if you lose, it's going to shatter your season.
I think I'd be prepared for if I'm the Steelers, just coming off what you were saying, that I think the Jets are going to use a lot of tempo. I mean, this is Aaron Rodgers is going to be like, oh, you gave me Davante back? I'm calling this offense, baby. I expect a ton of that.
Well, listen, and sure, go for it. Great. You're playing in Pittsburgh against this pass rush. You want to screw around with the cadence, Aaron? This is nightmare place to TJ Watt at home. You can do as much cadence work as you want. Pittsburgh's going to drown that out. You're going to have 19 procedural penalties, man.
I am picking the Jets, nevertheless.
Oh, yeah? I will say that there are some worlds in which this game ends 6-3. I think that this Jets pass rush, which has not been, I think, as good as it's been in years past, but still, it's got some teeth to it. It's going to be able to find success against the Steelers line. Russell Wilson ain't Justin Fields. As Mike Tomlin was asked, can Russell Wilson mitigate the pressures the way Justin Fields has in the past? And Tomlin just said no. Like, no, he can't. He can't do that.
Wait. They played that. I wish there was tape of this because they were like, Mike Tomlin was asked about this on, in his presser, and they showed someone asking the question. And when I heard the question, I was like, no. And when he said no, I laughed because I was so I didn't expect him to say it so bluntly.
Mike is so good on the mic, dude. Get Mike on a pod.
All right. The 2 Monday night games, they're good games. One is a little better. Ravens Bucks has a lot of juice.
I would like to say that I believe in the Bucks. Like I'm in on Bucks are good.
Planting your flag on.
Yeah, they're gonna lose this game, so I don't know why I'm doing it before they play the Ravens.
For your. Also, wait, hold on. Let me look at the Bucks schedule because I think they might have a difficult next few games. Okay, so they got Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, Niners. Ben,
it's casual.
Terrible timing. You should have waited until then. They got the Giants and the Panthers. Could have waited that to support the Bucks. Right after that, they have the Giants, Panthers, and the Raiders. That 3-game streak is when we're going to start hearing Baker Mayfield MVP chatter.
Yeah, they have, according to Unpredictable, which is like Vegas line math, they have the 7th easiest schedule the rest of the way. It's just they have to get through this month of football, and then it's like all NFC South and bad teams moving forward.
All right, you want to come up? You want to join? We're getting loose.
Lenny.
Come on. Oh, you still got it. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, buddy.
Hello. Video audience or audio audience. Pardon me. Lenny has joined the chat. There's a guy in the YouTube who complains every time when Lenny's not on the show.
You gotta timestamp it for him. Just see it in the description. Lenny appears at 53:62. That's not a time.
Okay. So I have Tampa. I wrote Mike Evans takeover game. I mean, come on. Right? Like, what else is there? Right? Like, no, not what else is there, but like, it's very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
The Baltimore Ravens struggled against, they're 29th in DVOA against wide receiver ones. They are 3rd in EPA per play on passes outside the numbers this year. It's tricky because I don't dislike their corners. Like, I don't think Brandon Stevens is awful, and Nate Wiggins is playing pretty well for a rookie, but no, those guys can match up with Mike
Brandon
Evans.
Stevens is one of those guys where Tony Romo gave him a shout out in the game. He was like, I love watching Brandon Stevens. We all love watching Brandon Stevens. It's just once the catch point gets involved, once the ball arrives, he is so sticky in coverage, and he sees it and he's fast, and then he cannot affect the catch point. It's so tough.
So the Ravens are 30th in EPA per play on passes outside the numbers. The Bucks are 3rd in EPA per play, which again, but Chris Godwin too. I think they can get some nice matchups there, but that's the formula. The Bucks rushing attack, Dominique and I talked about it, looked a lot better with Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving against the Saints, but I don't love them against this Ravens run defense that I think is like super legit. We saw that against Washington, by the way. I think Baker comes out slinging it, and if I'm Tampa, I'm just trusting Mike Evans to win every time.
Yeah, and Mike Evans, we usually do all this talk right when we get to the end of the season, but Mike Evans right now is approaching 100 career touchdowns, I think it is, for the Buccaneers. He had 99 against the Falcons. They were on the road, didn't get a touchdown. And he goes on the road against the Saints, doesn't get a touchdown. Now back home, I mean, like the first red zone play, I promise you that it's a target for Mike Evans. I think he's also nearing 10,000 career receiving yards. Might have actually got over it against the Saints. I can't recall. But anyway, like this feels like an Evans game at home, set the records, right? This is where you want to attack these Ravens on the outside. My key for this game, I don't think you can solve the coverage problem. Chris Godwin's been playing excellent. Jalen McMillan is back. So I think you solve it at the quarterback position, and you really need to pressure Baker, right? Now, Baker's numbers this year against pressure, like from an EPA per dropback perspective, have actually been pretty good.
I was going to say, yeah.
But if you look at what's really happening there is he's scrambling a ton, 2nd highest rate in the league. He's throwing behind the line of scrimmage and at the line of scrimmage at one of the highest rates in the league, getting a ton of yards after the catch, right? This is where you're getting a lot of these. Rashad White catches and runs, Sean Tucker catches and runs, Kate Otten catches and runs. Like they're shoving the ball underneath, and he's letting the offense work for him, which is a great choice for Baker. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm the Ravens, I feel so much better with my defense against your scramble approach. Right? Ravens, Ravens are one of the best scramble defending defenses.
Daniels on the ground. Like that's all you need to know, right?
I feel so much better about the ability of my linebackers and safeties to step up and tackle when I'm in zone coverage and you're throwing the ball underneath, as opposed to if I'm living with you, getting time in the pocket and launching the ball down the field. Pressure, again, Baker, it's not that he's playing poorly against pressure, it's that he's very predictable against pressure. He scrambles and his eyes drop, right? He's not necessarily killing you over the top, buying that extra half second and then taking taking a shot. He's going to kind of default to his Mayfield magic playmaking mode. And I just feel so much better about my defense there. So we're going to pressure Baker. We're going to move him off his spot. We're going to lose some reps. We're going to win enough reps that our offense is going to handle us for us on the other side.
Yeah, I don't feel great about the other side of the ball for Tampa. I think Tampa has a chance in this because I love that Mike Evans matchup, but defensively, I mean, the Ravens are just such a load. But when I think about this defense in particular, they blitz a lot, obviously. Lamar's been fantastic against the blitz this year. They're really, really bad against play action, and the Ravens are just right now a nightmare in the play action passing attack. I've really enjoyed watching the Ravens play action game this year because they've always been really, really good at it. And obviously Derrick Henry in the backfield is a major factor here. But the other thing, I talked about this on NFL Live when I was talking about sort of the how the Ravens are attacking the blitz, but something that when I watch the design of the play action passing attack, it's so much better this year, right? Because in the past, again, the Ravens throughout Lamar's career have been a great play action passing team for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But it was like too dependent on deep shot plays. This year, it is like ruthlessly efficient. And I grabbed this because I was curious. So right now, you can see a pretty dramatic difference in play action. He is really laser focused, Todd Monken, on that 10 to 20 yard range, the intermediate range, rather than deep shots. Lowest air yards per attempt off of play action, highest first down rate. We love that combination, and I think that's gonna be a real problem for Tampa.
Yeah, it's very funny that the Ravens accidentally backdoor discovered the Shanahan offense, right? Like the
digs, dude. All the digs off of
the Shanahan offense was play action for the intermediate middle of the field. Let's build the whole plane out of this. And then the Ravens were like, multiple tight ends, running backs in the backfield, Patrick Ricard, option plays, isolation. And then eventually accidentally ended up with man, dude, when we fake a run and then throw a guy behind the linebackers, it's crazy. They just accidentally eureka something that should have been very obvious for years. It's the intermediate middle, but then it's also right. It's that Zay Flowers outbreaker outside of the numbers, which when you have an undersized receiver playing on the outside, one of the things that he has to be able to do is he has to be able to take that corner deep and then snap him off and then win on the sideline. And Zay right now
the top of his routes, the way he is breaking them off and coming back and attacking the football is so cool to watch.
It's just, if you're going, again, if you think about Tank Dell and Wan'Dale Robinson and Tutu Atwell and and then you have Zay and the number of first and second round receivers who have come out who've been undersized. What is the deciding factor between okay, are you kind of a gadget guy for us or are you really a dude for us? It's your ability to snap off that 18-yard route and to beat that corner. If he can out physical you can't generate enough space. It's ball games. You can't win at the catch point. And Zay right now is so good at creating that room. And so Zay and then Rashad Bateman, who Rashad Bateman's playing well. I'm not going to comment on it because then it'll stop. But they have two guys who can win in isolation now. And so you can get that middle of the field stuff going in the play action game. And then you can also snap the outside routes. That's just impossible to defend.
It's funny watching this arms race of wide receivers that we've been talking about and saying the Chiefs need someone. And I watch the Ravens. I'm like, nah, that's good. I think they're good.
I would love a receiver who could block. I think that might be handy just because it goes back to what we talked about week one with the Chiefs. Yeah. Just there's sometimes they walk out with Andrews and Likely and Ricard on the field and you're like, it'd be very nice if one of these guys was Juwan Jennings. It make things a little bit more sense. But overall, they're very well built.
I'm picking the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm picking the Ravens too. The Bucs, Kalijah Cansey's back. Vita Vea is getting healthier. They're hoping to get Graham Barton back.
Good too. Diaby.
I had this in the column this week. 21 players took a snap for the Bucs on defense last week, which is a crazy number. It's super high. 17 of those players were drafted by Jason Light. They have drafted and developed just unbelievable. Him and Bowles, just they know what they like. They know it works. They get Christian Izzian in the building. They get Tyke Smith in the building. Servassier Dennis, Yaya Diaby. Everybody is ready to pick up a little bit of slack on that team. And so they really struggled against Kirk. Rattler got the big plays on them. I think Lamar's going to punish them in the secondary as well. They have so many young guys there. They have so much tumult there. But in general, I wouldn't be surprised if this Bucs defense gets better week over week over week.
I love Cansey. At some point, I'm going to take a minute and talk about him a little bit more. All right, finishing up with Chargers Cardinals. You have the Chargers. I have the Cardinals. You can go first. What is key for the Chargers in this one?
Yeah, we're gonna follow the script. We're gonna follow the menu to a T. We are going to run the football. We are going to avoid turnovers. We are going to hit timely third down throws. We are going to shorten this game. We are not going to allow explosives on defense. This Chargers Cardinals matchup is a style makes fight sort of a thing. The Chargers play exactly the brand of football that the Cardinals are going to struggle with. Cardinals right now just run defense, bottom 5 in the league. Pass defense also bottom 5 in the league, if we're being honest. But in general, it's that defensive front that really struggles for Arizona. It's just so easy to rip off 5 yards a pop on those guys. They want to be a 3 safety team. They want to be a light box team. They just don't have the linebacker play for it or the defensive tackle play for it. So the Chargers are going to go very heavy personnel. They're going to make you bring those light players into the box, and then they're just going to chunk the football. They're just going to run it. It's going to be long. Like, I think it was Nate Tice who posted that screenshot of the Chargers had like a 20-play, 7.5-minute field goal drive against the Broncos. Like, that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be leaning on you for 4 quarters. And then this Cardinals team who, like, I like some of what they do on offense. I think they got some players. Like, there's parts here that are flashy to me. If they can't hit big explosive passes, they cannot consistently win now on offense.
How much of that do you feel is Drew Petzing versus Kyler Murray? Because I have been sort of befuddled watching this offense week after week and some of their inabilities to get to like layups that are like an intermediate passing game, and also the deployment of Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, what do you see when you watch them?
I say like 65 Drew, 35% Kyler. I think that Petzing does a lot of really cool stuff in the running game. And I think passing game wise right now, they got like 5 concepts, and they're just really, really predictable. When they went down early against the Packers, it was down 24-0 in the first half, and they kind of clawed their way back a little bit, but they just started spamming 4 verts, and they ran it from like 9 different personnels with 12 different motion, and they're putting window dressing on it. Like, Petzing's kind of doing what he can to make everything, everything's the same, but make it look different a little bit. But in general, like, if you're just, 4 verts is what we've got, Kyler pick a matchup, like they cannot reliably get players open. They don't, and when they go to ask a player to win on an isolation route right now, it's usually Michael Wilson. Occasionally it's Greg Dortch. They just don't ask Marv. Like they did early in the game against the Packers. They had a miscommunication. Kyler wanted to run the fade. Marv ran the curl, and then they just stopped going to him. They're like, all right, we're not doing this one-on-one thing with Marv anymore. It feels like they talked about the Seahawks there a little bit. It feels like they lack an identity. They don't know what they are right now in the passing game. Are we going to be a heavy personnel play action team, and this is going to funnel through Trey McBride? Are we going to be a spread team, a 3 receiver team? Like they feel like they don't know what their character is yet.
I have felt like, certainly through the first few games of the season, it was kind of like he just ran the heavy offense and then tacked Marv on. Like, oh, and we have like a really, he had
him in the Khalif Raymond role, and you're like, dude.
Yeah, he has not felt integrated. And some of that, though, is I think some of it is scheme, but I think some of it is also Kyler Murray and like not looking his way. Yeah. I will say this Chargers defense has been very good, and I have to eat crow because I doubted Greg Rosenthal. I was like, they don't have the players and and holy smokes. I think I am still not totally sold that they're like an elite defense per se, but when you watch them on tape, they don't make a lot of mistakes. They play good coverage. The pass rush has been getting after it. They've been super stout against the run. One thing I did notice while looking through just some of their splits, they are 31st in DVOA versus wide receiver 2s. That is a guys rotating opposite Christian Fulton stat. So this could be one where like a Mike Wilson has a big game. As a couple weeks ago, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, he had a really, really big game, and I could see him being effective in this one. But for me, it's less about like attacking specific weaknesses in this Chargers defense and more like Arizona, like figure out your identity on offense and figure out how to get the most out of these guys. Yeah. So there's right. So Asante Samuel out for this game. He's on reserve. And then Christian Fulton pulled the hammy, and he's questionable for this game. So he's questionable for this one? Yeah. And so right now your corners for this team are Darib Still, who had a nice little play against the Broncos, and then Cam Hart. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so if I am Arizona, and you on paper, you are a very light box team, which is the sort of team that I want to go heavy and run it against. And then you also have corner weaknesses, which is the sort of team that then I want to get my Marv one-on-ones against. This should make sense. This should be 12 personnel under center, James Conner, Marv. Like this should be what you wanted it to be. I have one Rams game.
it made sense. I saw it, it coalesced, and it was there. And that was the Rams defense. This Chargers defense is a lot better.
But against the Niners, there were plays. It was not an inconsistent game. There was the field goal weirdness. I'm not saying that they were came out and dominated him, but in that game, I felt that you saw some glimpses of the offense we expected. The offense you're describing, 12 personnel, throwing, play action, under center, all of that stuff. Kyler scrambles. Mm-hmm. It's just been so inconsistent. So
and I think that probably more than. I would say probably more than any team in the league, maybe most, maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but more than most teams in the league, this offense really, really, really needs to run the football for it to work. Like they walk out on every single drive, 1st and 10, and they're like, we are running the ball. Like we need to pick up a first down. We need to get this machine going. The leading rusher against the Packers was Trey Benson with 26 yards. Like fundamentally, if you can't get the running game off the ground, this offense does not work. And the Chargers, again, they're a light box team, but they have been extremely good against the run so far this season.
Against the run.
Kudos to Jesse Minter. Dude, Denzel Perryman turning the clock back a little bit. Dan Henley, they got their backers are making plays. Like Derwin's up in the box. They're impressive right now. Second level.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching them with great interest because that's been kind of like one of the under sort of quiet stories of the entire season is the massive improvement. That along with the Denver defense, it's just been, I certainly didn't see, even Greg would admit he didn't see top 5 coming, so it's been pretty cool, but, and it's not like they haven't played anyone, they played Patrick Mahomes, right? Like this isn't, it's a very interesting, I'm taking the Chargers in this just because we just glossed over the Arizona defense stinks.
Yeah, I mean, that's why
worst unit in this game.
I went to the Chargers offense to be like, all right, how should they go about things? And I ended up with okay, however they want to.
I wrote run the ball, quick passes, short passes, passes in a clean pocket. It doesn't matter.
No, I think it's the Chargers as well. I will say Chargers were favored on the road against the Broncos. Won that game handily. Right? Obviously, Broncos are coming back a little bit. Now on the road against the Cardinals, favored again. The Chargers are good. I'm not sure they're favored on the road good. There's a lot of faith right now in Vegas in this team.
I could see, if Kyler, again, if they hit the highs that we've seen this year, I could see them surprising, but I'm going to bet on the team that doesn't have the worst unit amongst the 4, and that is LA. All right, we are done. I hinted at this or talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. Next week is going to be a split episode. I will be on for half of the episode, and then the other half, Ben and Dominique are going to be together.
Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, hosted by Dominique Foxworth and Ben Solak.
Recapping both Monday night games, so you guys have a tough assignment. Yeah, I know that's. And they both could be good. So it's not one. I feel like the last few doubleheaders, it's been an easy switch over situation.
Yeah, no multi-view.
Maybe the Titans, right? In any case, I will be back next week, and also, of course, to preview later in the week. If you guys want to check this out on YouTube and listening to this audio, it's at youtube.com/@Mina As always, thank you to everyone at Omaha Productions, Kirsten Sobecki, Anthony Jimenez, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, Tucker Tashchin, and that's it for now.